Hi, welcome back to the fourth installment of Follet, the video book. Once again, we come to the part in the chapter that you've already, if you've been following us, you've already had pie and music. Now we come to the graphically sexual part of the chapter. Once again, we will mention our disclaimer. This section particularly is not safe for work or for children. If you feel uncomfortable with this sort of thing, please find another video to watch. The next installment of the Follet video book will be more acceptable to more people, but this part, well, we'll let you find out for yourself if you like. Anyway, so please sit back and enjoy yourself, and you'll find out a little bit more about incubuses and where they come from. Enjoy. He looked both ways, and seeing no one, walked up to the house. The calling was so intense it was difficult for him to think. He walked into the open garage, up 3 little stairs, and into the kitchen. There was a light on the table in the living room that let him see the hallway. He walked down and opened the last door. She was lying on the bed asleep, a well-thumbed romance novel, The Ripped Bodice, on the bed next to her, and then the room changed. Like a mist rolling across the room, the walls and windows and door grew indistinct. Most of the room disappeared. The woman asleep on the bed was suddenly standing across the room in front of the bed. She held a dark leather riding crop and wore nothing but black leather boots with tall heels that laced up to her knees. She rubbed the crop up her thigh until the tip touched her hairy bush. He couldn't take his eyes away from the leather pushing through her curly black hair to tease the puffy flesh beneath. She smiled at his attention and said, "Take off your hoodie and shirt." He let the hoodie fall to the floor and pulled his black t-shirt over his head. She walked over to him, and when he moved to her, she slapped his bicep with the stinging leather. "Don't move," she hissed. She came closer and let the crop fall down to his crotch and rub his hardening cock. She moved closer and leaned forward to kiss his chest, opening her mouth to suck him into her past her lips and take his nipple between her teeth. He gasped. She removed her mouth from him and stepped back, looking him up and down. "Take off your shoes and socks and jeans," she ordered. He slipped off his shoes and reached down to pull off his socks. He unbuttoned his jeans and let them fall. He slipped his hand under the waistband of his briefs to slide them off and felt a stinging slap from her leather knout. "No," she whispered. "Turn around." He turned away from her and stood still, waiting. He closed his eyes and immediately smelled the heady mixture of her perfume and the musk from between her legs. And then he felt the heat from her body so close, and then the pressure of hard nipples pressing against his ribs on either side of his spine. He luxuriated in that scent and warmth and felt soft, wet lips caressing the skin on his shoulder blades. And then, as her hands grabbed his triceps, her teeth closed on the skin of his upper back, tighter, tighter, the pressure building to a place where the pleasure of her bite began to be pain. She took her mouth from him. "Turn back and face me, big man." He turned around and saw that she had gone to the bed and had lain back, spreading her legs to expose her wet slits, surrounded by the wonderful wild bush of pubic hair. She shifted and lifted one leg, putting her boot on the edge of the bed. She ran the leather crop up her boot from the floor, pausing briefly at her knee, before slowly moving up her thigh to lightly dance in her bush. "Come closer," she whispered. And he walked closer until he was about a foot away from the bed. "Reach into your briefs and wrap your hand around the shaft of your cock and pull it out for me to see." He reached in and grabbed himself. He was beginning to harden as he pulled his dick out for her. "With your other hand, slide the waistband under your balls so that I can see them too." And as he did this, she moved the leather-wrapped rod in her hand so that it softly flicked at his scrotum. "Stroke your cock. I want to see you jerk yourself until you get hard." As he slid his hand up and down his shaft, she let the crop touch his curled fingers and then land lightly at the head of his penis. She moved the crop between his legs and brought it up to touch his sack again. That's the way, kid. Kneel down in front of me." He knelt. "Keep beating that meat, stud." In spite of himself, he was becoming aroused. His cock was crazy hard, the tip bright red and beginning to throb. "Now use your mouth and hands to worship my pussy." She fairly purred this command as he moved his head forward to follow her command. He moved his nose to her wet slit and began at the bottom of her cunt, moving up toward her clit. As his head moved up, he let his tongue stick out of his mouth to lick the wetness from her puffy lips. He lapped her like a cat takes milk, softly and relaxed, moving his tongue to touch all of the little folds of skin that surrounded her whole like a meaty necklace. He let the aroma of her pungent cunt go to his head, dizzying him as he lost himself in the adoration of her. As his tongue explored her soft external folds, he moved the index finger of his other hand to the mouth of her opening. He slid it in just inside her, and then moved his thumb to gently pinch her, and then slide his index finger further inside. He pulled his finger out of her and let his first two fingers move as one back inside her, pushing in, curling back toward him, rubbing her inside toward the front. He felt her run the fingers of one hand through his hair, and then, like a small electric shock, she felt the slap of the leather crop at the top of his ass, just to the right of the small of his back. She laughed softly, and he renewed his kisses, now concentrating on softly sucking her lips, as his mouth moved toward her clitoris, that bulging nub of flesh almost vibrating with lust. "Oh yes, that's the way, suck my pussy." He pulled his wet fingers out of her and rubbed them over her thighs and ash, and then back to her puffy pussy, rubbing her vulva in a circular motion that moved closer and closer to her clit. She had thrown her head back and was glorying in the sensation when he slid one hand under her ass and lifted her hips, so that her crooked leg was thrown over his shoulder. He pulled her hips forward so that her cunt was almost facing up and her anus was exposed. With his other hand, he reached up and grabbed her by her ankle, his strong fingers closing around the soft leather of her boot. He held her leg that way so that her toe was beside her ear. "Now it's my turn," he told her. Still holding her ankle, he moved his other hand to her pussy. He put his index, middle, and ring fingers together and rubbed them in a circle at the opening of her wetness. He pushed them inside her, rotating his hand back and forth, filling her up. After pushing his fingers deeply into her wetness, first up and then down and then around in a circular motion, he pulled them out of her. They glistened in the light, wet with her. He took them and moved them to her anus, rubbing her juices on her ass. He placed his slick middle finger at the opening of her ass and rubbed that muscle, exerting a little pressure to make it open to him. He slid just the tip of his finger inside her and then pulled it out so that he could spread her apart with 2 and then 3 fingers. He rubbed her just at the opening, and when the slickness had rubbed off his fingers, he raised his head and spit onto her asshole. He pushed his fingers slowly and relentlessly into her, spreading her for him. As she relaxed, he slid his thumb into her pussy as his other fingers slid into her ass. He grabbed his cock and moved the head to her anus. He pushed against her, and he was able to fit the tiniest tip of his dick inside her. He pushed harder and gasped as he slid inside, the head of his cock filling her ass. He moved back, letting his cock leave her, and then pushed forward again, deeper into her. She began to sense his rhythm and pushed to him as he pushed to her. He moved his hips back and forth, adding a new sensation to the strange excitement of this new fucking. As they worked together, he arched his back and lifted his head to look down on her. Her eyes were closed and her mouth was open in silent ecstasy. As he moved closer and closer to the edge, he lowered his mouth to her breast, about an inch to the inside of her left breast. He placed his open mouth on her softness. He pushed into her, slowly and then more insistently, and sucked her skin into his mouth past his teeth. He sucked hard on her, his suction pulling her skin over his hard teeth. Faster and faster he fucked her ass, and stronger he sucked on her breast. As he came, she cried out. As he took his mouth from her chest, he saw the beautiful round bruise he had given her. She would carry that reminder of him for a while. As he moved away from her, his cock sliding out of her, still on his knees, he told her, "Now you're mine. You wear my mark. Call me when it fades and I will remind you." He turned and walked away from her, and the room shifted back from the dream to reality. The woman was asleep on the bed, almost snoring. He felt confused and guilty and turned and hurried out the bedroom door and back down the hall, through the kitchen, down the steps, into the garage, and out onto the sidewalk. The experience had dismayed him, and he hurried to the safe dimness of a bar near campus. He hurried in and made for the last stool, flopping down and telling the bartender, "Give me an Irish car bomb, Sean. Make it a double." Follet let his head rest on his hands, and when he heard Sean place the glass in front of him, he raised his head, reached out for the glass, and swallowed about half the drink in one gulp. "You might want to take it easy on that, son," a gravelly baritone voice interrupted Follet's attempt at oblivion. "And who the fuck are you?" "Just a friend, someone who's been there before," the calm voice offered. "Like you have any idea," Follet replied, his anger giving way to a numb loneliness. "I've felt a calling, and I've been in the dreams. I've a pretty good idea of what you're going through. So you're crazy too?" "No, not crazy," Follet's new companion laughed. "Just, well, someone who sees another side of what there is to see. Someone who walks another path." Why is this happening to me? Follet demanded. For thousands of years, our kind have been born, lived, and died. When we keep our secret from the rest of the world is a happier place. When we are there, people have someone who can help them through their dreams without judgment, someone who can ease their burdens, letting them dream and be who they are. When we become known, people call us names, incubi for you and your brothers, and succubi for your sisters, and hunt us down. In the Middle Ages, we were exorcised or burned. Today, psychology is the modern temple, so most folks look at their dreams and our place in them as a mild form of mental illness. Others who call us to their dreams simply look at those dreams as a very special gift. There's one guiding principle among our kind. It's the dreamer's dream. You were able to receive the calling of dreamers after you became sexually active. Think about how you felt when you first made love. It was dreamlike, another reality, as though your consciousness had been changed, and you now lived in this altered state. Who are you? Follet asked. Ozdog Serto, the man said and stuck out his hand. My family is Hungarian. I'm from Fairport Harbor, Ohio, on the shores of Lake Erie, about halfway between Erie, Pennsylvania, and Cleveland. How do you know all of this? When I was about 18, I first heard the calling. It was frightening and exhilarating at first, and luckily I met Mr. Karabasan, and he helped me understand my gift. Ha, some gifts, Follet sneered. Our lives as incubi are complicated. And there are rules you cannot break. You cannot enter a dream unless you're called. You cannot act without the dreamer's permission. You cannot stay with the dreamer after the dreamer wakes. You cannot talk about your life as an incubus who those who are not spirits like us. But there are compensations. You can take away the hurt that people feel. You get to travel. Your expenses are paid for. Follet laughed out loud. I get to travel? My expenses are paid for. What the fuck? Is there a dental plan and a home for demon lovers retirement community? Ordog laughed too. You won't have many medical expenses. Our kind doesn't get sick very often. Since you are the dreamer's dream, you won't age like most people. You get a car, your dream car. You decide what you'd like to drive. You shouldn't have a motorcycle, though, because there are too many lousy drivers who don't watch out for bikers. It's not safe. You can travel where and when you like. You're free as a bird. You can wear whatever's comfortable, and you can eat what you like. If you want to take a break from the traveling, you can stay where you would like. But the calling won't let you. Someone will call to you wherever you go. You'll find out the rest as you go. But if you need to talk to me, you can call me at this number. Ordog handed Follet a business card with a phone number embossed on one side. When you leave the bar tonight, Ordog continued, walk down the street until you see a car that you like. It'll be yours. It already knows that you're here and it's waiting for you. The radio will have one station, WINC. You'll find the station's playlist to be just the thing. When you need to sleep, stop at a hotel or motel, ask for a room. If you get hungry or thirsty, stop where you like and order whatever pleases you. When you need new clothes, you can find a store you like and ask for what you want, or you can create them yourself. You already know that if you never ask for something, you never get it. Ordog stood up and turned to leave. This is going to be the most remarkable adventure you could have asked for. You will do well, my brother, he told Follet. And then he walked out the door.